Is everybody having a fantastic time? I wonder why. I wonder why your time is so fantastic. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the power of that idea, of that simple three-letter word, why. This will possibly be the most powerful word that you encounter here at Free the Dream with regard to your dream. And here's why. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why you were born. I submit to you that that's the case, and I'm going to take the next 44 minutes and 8 seconds not only proving to you that that's the case, but helping you understand the answer to the question of why you're here. Not just why you're here, but why you're here. Because once you understand why you're here, what you're doing while you're here will become much more clear. You know, we start at a very young age asking questions. Who has kids? What do? They ask questions. It's one of the first things that they learn how to do. And what's perplexing about it, as a parent, I have 4 kids, they often ask questions that we can't answer. But they ask questions incessantly. It's built into us to understand the answers to questions, and sometimes they answer questions that are just crazy. Why don't crabs have eyebrows? I have no idea. Does anybody know? I have no idea why crabs don't have eyebrows. But sometimes kids are really, really insightful. And they ask questions like, why are we here? Right? And so it turns out that for children, according to psychologists, these why questions help them make sense of the world around them. That's why they ask why. So when you're confused and you don't quite understand the world around you, why aren't you asking why? Because when children ask why, it accelerates learning. That's how they do it. And your responses to those children, as you know, if you're a parent or you've been around children, they're pivotal, absolutely crucial how you answer those questions. But the sad thing is, as adults, according to Bobby Albert, who is a very famous author in this space, we don't do well at asking these questions. So I started at the beginning and I went to the dictionary and I looked up, what is this word why? And it says, you know, what's your cause, your reason, your purpose? That's a word that we're going to talk about here a little bit, a heavy word. Boy, when people start talking to you about your purpose, that feels like, oh, I don't know if I want to go down that road. But then I had to laugh because further down the definition was a baffling problem, an enigma. Now, for those of you that have struggled why you do what you do or even what you're supposed to be doing, do you feel that enigma problem? It just feels like, oh my gosh, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what we want to try and tackle today. You know, as an engineer, I've been an engineer at a $15 billion company for a long time. I'm very old. And as an engineer, I'm trained to ask why. This is what engineers do. And when something goes wrong particularly, we're trained to ask why. And we also try to imagine what the outcomes are going to be. And we have a process in engineering called a 5 why process. In fact, we use what we call a 3x5 why process. When something goes wrong, we ask, why did it go wrong? What was it about the event that happened? And then we ask why again. Well, why did that happen? Well, the pump failed. Well, why did the pump fail? Because we didn't oil the pump. Well, why didn't we oil the pump? Because we don't have a spec that tells us to do that. And on and on and on until we get to the true root cause of why the pump failed. But then we ask the question, well, why didn't we detect this? And we do that 5 why. And then we ask the question, well, what is it about our procedures, the things that we do as a company, our systems? Why 5 whys? So I know, as an engineer, I know in my heart, understanding why is absolutely critical. So in Texas, which is where I'm from, in Texas, we have a saying, you got to eat your own dog food. And what we mean by that is if you're going to come up and tell people why, then that they need to know why, you better tell them why they need to know why. You better eat your own dog food. And so I'm going to tell you why you need to know why, and it's because of this sleeping guy right here. I've been coaching engineers and young managers and young executives for almost 20 years. And I've been coaching online entrepreneurs, and I've been talking to them through my podcast for a decade. And what I find is that some people, and I promise you, some people in this room right now, today, some of you, and you know who you are coasting through life asleep at the wheel. Now, there's fewer of you in this room than in a lot of other rooms because you're here. And maybe you've realized you're a little asleep at the wheel, but you're going through the motions. And so I ask you, is this you? Are you the person who's kind of just going through the motions in life? And I submit to you that if that is you, that it's because you don't know why you need to be doing what you're doing. You don't know why, what your purpose is. Do any of these sound familiar? I talk to college students all the time in my role in my day job, and they tell me they got a job because they had to pay their student loans. Well, why are you an engineer? Well, I'm an engineer because that paid the most. I didn't know what else to do, so I just took this job, or I just fell into this career path. None of this is very intentional. And the reason people are going through life without intention is because they haven't stopped down to understand why they're here, what they should be doing, what their true calling is. You can put whatever name on it you want. Now, I'm not the first person to think about this problem. I've got a guy that I follow online. Some of you may have heard of him. What's his name? Michael Hyatt. It's not well known, but Michael Hyatt's not the brains of that operation. His wife, Gail, is. She's absolutely wonderful and fantastic. And if you ever get a chance to meet Michael Hyatt, which I encourage you to do, make sure you check and see if Gail is there, because she is really a magnificent woman. And she is often quoted by Michael as having said, people lose their way when they lose their why. If you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to get there. And in order to know that, you got to know why. It turns out that old Freddie Nietzsche, personal friend of mine from the turn of the 18th century, it's also good to know why, because if you know why, you can endure any how. And if you read these guys like Nietzsche and Viktor Frankl, they all come to the same kind of conclusion that if you have purpose, you can do anything. In Texas, sometimes we say, boy, I'd eat glass for a week if I could do that. Well, this is, you can do anything, right? If you understand why you're doing it. I really do believe that. It's not just that, though. How many of you have heard the expression, you can't see the forest for the trees? Heck, some of you can't even see the forest or the trees. And that's because oftentimes what you're trying to see is completely out of focus. It's completely out of focus. And what you need is a pair of wise spectacles. You need to look at the world and the things that you're trying to do through the lens of why you're trying to do it. Then everything will come into focus. It's truly amazing. You see it with Cliff Ravenscraft. The clearer he gets on why he's trying to educate and inspire and do all the things that he does, the better his stuff gets, right? I've seen it. I'm his friend. I'm his boyfriend. I've seen it, right? Napoleon Hill, another personal friend of mine, I'm close to all these guys. There's one quality that you have to possess to win. See, now we're talking about winning. Before I was talking about just having the right direction, but if you really want to kick butt, according to Napoleon Hill, you need to have you need to be definite about your purpose. And the knowledge of what you want, and you need a burning desire to possess it. And I submit to you that you can't have a burning desire if you don't know why you have the desire in the first place. It's just not going to work. So that's why you need why. And so I know what you're all saying. Okay, Mark, we're sort of bought in. We're sort of bought into the fact that we need to know why, but we don't know how to get to why. Well, let me tell you one piece of good news. I got two pieces of good news for you. And maybe there's three pieces. I'm going to tell you how you can find your why. The other piece of good news is that knowing that you need to know your why will help motivate you to go find it. If I had just told you to go find your why and that will help you, you wouldn't be motivated to go find it. But now that you know why you need your why, you're going to go do this for me, right? All right, that's right. I got a third piece of good news for you, and that's from my buddy Zig. Now, I actually met Zig back before he passed. I have a whole long story about Zig, but suffice it to say, I was dating a girl when I was 18 years old, and she broke my heart. Oh, my God, she broke my heart. But before she did that, her dad loaned me some Zig Ziglar tapes, and I've been listening to Zig religiously almost since I was 18 years old, which was like 75 years. Zig says, did you know that every human being is created with a purpose and that they have a responsibility to not only discover their purpose, but also to fulfill it? So the good news is you've got a purpose. We just need to go find it. The even better news for me as the speaker who's trying to motivate you to do this is that according to Zig, who is always right, is that you have a responsibility to go do it. You have a responsibility to the people that you're trying to serve. You have a responsibility to your family, but most of all, you have a responsibility to yourself to go find out why you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Now, I want to address a topic. There has been some discussions about, the word purpose, as I mentioned, is a very heavy word. I have my purpose. And sometimes you hear people who are very dogmatic about purpose, and they're very up on their pedestal about their purpose. I have my purpose. God, maybe if you're very lucky, the voice of God will come to you to be like Noah. I want you to build an ark. And then you'll know your purpose, right? Right? And Noah, no question, I got to build an ark. Fill it with animals. That's what Noah was clear on his purpose, right? That's not happening for me. I know maybe it's happening for some of you, and God bless you if it is, and I'm so jealous. But for most of us, finding your why is more of a journey that you go on. And in order to go on that journey, you have to start out in a direction. So I don't want you to have the limiting belief that because you don't know your purpose, you can't go look for it. Because that's what I see a lot, is people are so overwhelmed by the question that they don't start to try and answer it. I want to encourage you to explore this on a regular basis. Knowing your why is a journey, and again, I'll point to my friend Cliff, whose why has changed immensely, especially over the last 5 years. And his impactfulness has changed as well, right? He is impacting lives in a way that is very much more significant than what he was doing before. So I encourage you to be ready to go on this journey. Now, I will tell you that there are two kinds of whys that you're normally going to run into. One of them is what I call running away from motivation, all right? We're running away from something. In this case, maybe it's a rhinoceros. I haven't had this experience personally. My wife did get too close to a moose one time, and so it was something like that. But you have these running away motivations, and those running away motivations often might be a maniacal boss. I hear this all the time. I want to escape my soul-sucking job. You have work that you hate. You're in a bad relationship, financial stress. You don't want to deal with confrontation. Whatever it is, you're running away from something. And in your book, you have a graphic that will allow you to write down exactly the things that you're running away from. So I want to give you just 15 seconds to jot down whatever it is that you're doing right now. Why are you doing it? And for some of you, it's going to be because I want to quit my job, because I want to get away. I want to get away from something. What is it that you're trying to get away from? This is often a good place to start. Now, I will tell you from my personal experience, this is not a very good place to finish. It is much more powerful to go to the second class of motivation, and this is really where you want to go if you want to get to a class 1 behavior. By the way, all of these things tie into what Cliff is talking about with regard to getting leverage, right? Why is one of the ways that you get leverage over your problems. And so all of this kind of connects, right? All the neuroscience, all the leverage stuff. But what I think is more powerful is, what are you running towards? I love this puppy dog. The puppy dog is running towards a treat or a ball or something that he wants very badly, and I cannot imagine being more excited than this puppy dog right here, right? It's very excited. And running towards behaviors or things, or running things that you're running towards are things like time freedom and financial freedom and creative freedom, or the ability to help people, or your own self-worth, or what you see as your calling. So I want you to take a minute now and later to write down the things that you're running toward, because those will often tell you what the big vision is. And you see all of these people telling you need a vision board. I think those are great. They're talking about establishing a vision of what you're running towards. I want to tell you my story about this, because I think if I tell you my story, it will help you understand this from, to, and towards thing. Like I said, I've been online in the online space for 10 years. 10 years ago in 2007, I was managing the world's leading team of computational lithographers. I had PhDs from various universities on my staff, and we were the leading team in the entire world doing the kind of science that we were doing. We were publishing papers, and we were enabling my multinational corporation to crush the marketplace. At this time, 65% of the cell phones in the world had my technology in it, and 100% of the cell phone calls in the United States went across my technology. Okay, so we were kicking butt. And then my company decided and made what turned out to be an amazing, excellent, brilliant financial decision that we should exit this business because of things that were changing on the horizon. And I have to admit, being so close to it, I didn't really understand the decision at the time. But in hindsight, as a stockholder, that was an amazingly insightful decision. But at that time, back in 2007, I didn't like it. And I know you're expecting the next shoe to drop, which is I got laid off. That's not what happened. I got a promotion. We exited the business, and I got a promotion. And guess what my first job was? My first job was to dismiss the vast portion of all of these people that I had dominated the world with, that I had become close with. I had had dinner at their homes. I knew their wives, and my children played with their children in many cases. And my job, newly promoted, was to tell them that they no longer had a job. Again, this was a brilliant financial decision. I don't dispute that. But to me personally, it was very impactful. And I realized immediately that I was only one step away from being caught up in that and could be caught up in it at any time. It had nothing to do with my performance. I was laying off people that were 100 times smarter than me, quite literally. Guys with PhDs in physics, people that were just absolutely brilliant. They no longer had a job, and it was my job to tell them. And I knew that there was no reason that couldn't be me someday, and that I needed a backup plan. So I was running away from the risk of being laid off. And so I needed to decide what to do. So I have a model for you here that will help you start down the path of understanding what it is that you need to do. And don't worry too much about this, because at the end I'm going to give you all the slides and a link to go get those. I think you can find your why most easily by understanding what your talents are. And by talent is, what do you do well naturally? For example, some people might tell Cliff Ravenscraft that he naturally has a voice for audio. Okay, maybe they might say that. So he has that talent. And then the second question is, what are you curious about or interested in? So for Cliff, this is right now his personal development. He has a tremendous interest in what makes people go, and he's also interested in helping people. And then what skills have you learned? Now, Cliff will tell you he spent way more than 10,000 hours studying these topics, way more than 10,000 hours. He's mentioned this on several occasions. And he's been to training and done lots of things. He has many skills. And then what are your values? How will you measure your life? And I haven't asked Cliff this specifically, but I would say he would measure his life by the number of people that he's able to serve and serve well. But at the time that I was doing this, when I was in my situation, I was worried about money. And that's okay. That's where a lot of people start. I was running away from something. I was worried about the money. So I started this online business, and part of that online business was helping people start a business, right? I was helping people do what I had done eventually, and something started to happen. Because at first, I was building junk affiliate sites and not really adding any value to the world and just chasing after commissions and trying to figure out this internet marketing thing. And then eventually I started helping people, and then I started to get emails like this. This one was from yesterday. Awesome content. Your course has assisted me to commit to finishing a project. I've written 300-page novel, but I haven't edited blah, 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 blah. But the point is, I started getting these emails, and I realized, aha. What I really value is helping people. That's my real value. And that helped me take my why from finding a backup plan and protecting my family, which is still the case. It's still in there. I still care about that deeply. But now my why is helping people like you, right? That's what really charges me. And getting emails and voicemails and just stories from people that I've helped. Not because I have some inflated sense of self-worth, but because it makes me feel like my life has some meaning. It's why I do what I do. It's why if you call me because you have a flat tire, I will come help you. That's how I am wired. And it took me a while to figure that out. Well, and then I got back to when I was 18, and I remember the one thing that I carried around with me, and in fact, Stephanie Ravenscraft made me a plaque that says this: you can get everything in life that you want if you'll just help another people get what they want. That's a Zig Ziglar thing. It's very famous, and it's the way I try to live my life. It has a lot to do, maybe everything to do with why I do the things that I do. I understand my why. So what is your why? So that's my story. And I only tell you that because I think it might be helpful for you as you start to write your story. And I don't think you should have unrealistic expectations that between now and the next session, you're going to completely discover your why and it's going to be completely clear what you should do. But I want to help you get there. I want to help you get there. And like I said, the slides will be available to you. I'll tell you how to get them at the end of the presentation. I will tell you that you've got to look for clues in your life that give you a pointer to your why. You've got to try and understand what's going on in your life. You've got to observe that, what lights you up, what you're doing, how you're spending your time. Take an accounting of that. You've got to look for clues. Because most of us, we don't just have this epiphany, oh, this is my why. We've got to go look for it. Here's a picture of my son where it's a tied ball game. He's sliding into second base. Rusty will tell you that his wrist should not be on the ground like that. But he did this on a delayed steal, which is a complicated thing in baseball where you don't steal right away, but you steal later so that you can reach the bag unexpectedly. Because in this case, he's the winning run. Now he's in scoring position. We ended up winning this game actually as a result of this steal. This is one of my whys. I spend an enormous amount of time coaching baseball. Why do I do that? I love my family very much. That's one reason why I get to spend time with my son. But when I dug into it, what I really figured out was not only that, but I love pouring into the lives of 12-year-old boys and teaching them youth sports. It is about baseball because I love baseball. Baseball's huge. I love baseball. But the things that I teach in baseball are the things that these kids will need to know later in their life. And that lights me up. And it also lights me up when I'm in Kroger at the grocery store and some kid runs up to me, Coach Mark, guess what I did? Guess how my math test was? Because we talk about those things on the baseball diamond. We talk about the importance of school. That's part of my why. What are you doing in your life? Where are you spending your time? And I suggest that you do this by way of journaling. Journaling is an incredibly powerful and underrated technology. It's not a technology, it's pen and paper. Some of you will do it electronically. I encourage you for neuroscience reasons to write it down and not do it electronically. Some research indicates that you will be more thoughtful about it if you actually write in a physical journal. But whatever you do, write down the things that are lighting you up, exciting you, inspiring you. What has inspired you today? Those are the kind of things that you want to write down. And if you can start the practice of every day before you go to bed, writing down the things that inspired you during the day, even if they're small things, maybe you were inspired by the quality of the ketchup commercial that you saw because it made you laugh. I don't know. But if you can write those things down, patterns will start to emerge. And then you need to start asking the right questions of yourself once you start understanding this. What makes you come alive? What strengths do you have? Where is the value that you add to people? And I think most importantly, if you could project yourself forward a few decades, how will you measure your life? These are the kind of questions that seem kind of heavy, but if you can develop the habit of addressing these questions on a regular basis, you will start to unpeel that onion. You know, I have this picture of this woman because she's clearly elated. Do you ever feel like this? Like you just had a big win? Ask yourself why you felt that way. What was it? Not just that you made the $100 or whatever it was, whatever this lady's excited about, but what is it underneath that causes this reaction? If you can identify when these things are helping you in your life and you're doing these things, that will help you. And another thing that you can do, and Cliff and I have both done this at various times, you can ask your friends. This is a very interesting exercise I want to encourage you to do. You can actually send an email or have a discussion over coffee with your friends, and don't ask them what they think your why is. That's not the right question. The right question is, how do they see you? What do they see you as? What do they think you're good at? What do they see you helping people with? What do they see you doing? What behaviors do they see? And you can formulate these questions in a way that will give you these detective clues so that you can understand your why. This is kind of the purpose of this kind of journaling. But that's part of this journey. So I want to encourage you to start peeling the onion. Don't worry if you don't hear the voice of God at first, or you don't feel like you have your final purpose, because your purpose will evolve. What I do encourage you to do is to write the following exercise. Your purpose, your reason for doing what you do is to blank so that you can blank. This is a very helpful exercise. And I would not stop at one. I would write 10 of these. I would say, my purpose is to help people so that I can fulfill their desire to create an internet business. Or my purpose is to help people start an internet business so they can achieve their goals of freedom and self-worth, or whatever it is. Cliff's goals, if Cliff's goals were expressed this way, he might say something like his goal was to lift people up and give them the tools that they need so that they can free their dream. Right? So I encourage you to write these. Maybe they look something like this. These were two that I found online. Goals to inspire people to do the things, to change the world, to empower, to educate people so that they can improve their lives and achieve their goals. Try to write this down for yourself, and don't be afraid to change it. Review it periodically, and this will give you the power. See, here's one of these weird neuroscience things. Your brain works on whatever problem you present it. Tracy addressed this a little bit. You know, you can't not think about a pink elephant. If I tell you don't think about a pink elephant, you're going to think about a pink elephant. That also goes to your subconscious mind. And whatever you put in front of your mind, your subconscious mind's going to chew on that. And eventually, it will pop stuff back up into your conscious mind. This is one of the reasons that you have amazing ideas when you're brushing your teeth, when you're in the shower, because your conscious mind is roughly idle. You're not thinking about anything when you brush your teeth. I'm actually trying to make sure I brush them long enough, because that's something I have to work on every day. But I have a vibrating toothbrush that actually vibrates in 60-second increments. I'm an engineer. It's what we do. So these ideas will come up to your conscious mind. And if you present your conscious mind with this problem, what your purpose is, your thinking will start to evolve, and you'll get more ideas, which you'll write in your journal, and eventually this thing will work for you. If you put this away and you don't think about it again after this conference, guess what? You're not going to get any clarity. So you really need to make this a part of your self-evaluation process. Oprah, another personal friend of mine, said, "There's no greater gift than to honor your life's calling." It's a gift you give yourself. It's why you were born, just like I told you in the very beginning of this discussion. And it's how you become most truly alive. If you want to get more out of life in a way that's hard to describe, if you want to feel more alive, if you want to feel excited about getting up in the morning, even if it's 4 a.m., you need to understand why you're getting out of bed. You need to understand why it is you're doing what you're doing. And that's how you will become most truly alive. So I want to encourage you, if you go, I have something for you. So if you go to latenightim.com, FTD19, you'll have an opportunity to do a couple of things. None of them require your email address, just so you know. There's a video from me about this that will encourage you to move forward there, especially for you, okay? There is also, I have been getting a lot of questions about side hustling, and I've got a couple of podcast episodes that I picked out for you that you can listen to on that page that will help you side hustlers. How many side hustlers do we have here? Yeah, that will help you side hustlers with time management. So thank you very much, and I encourage you to go find your why. Thank you.
Building your business one night at a time.